It's good to always kind of keep our ears
She
to the
says
ground.
she had an interesting idea. Clean.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, so we'll ask
Yeah.
her what she's up to, yeah.
And I was just saying to Jose earlier today that it was something that was surprising for me that my eczema really started to flare when I was here, and I think largely because of the dryness of the climate, the extreme environment. Having grown up in Newfoundland and Labrador, I always was used to a little bit more of a humid environment, and coming here, my skin really was affected by it. So for us, and you also having skin issues, I think it was something that we naturally kind of gravitated towards trying to find a solution. It's kind of how I feel like so many companies are born and entrepreneurs grow, is starting with a problem, and for us it was the problem skin.
Did you come to that solution sort of in an academic way, or did, like, we have a birch syrup producer in the neighborhood, did a bottle of birch syrup fall on the floor and get under your skin and help your skin? I'm like, what prompted the sort of exploration of birch for birch water?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, both in cosmetics, in beauty products, and, in food, there's this movement towards, more natural, less processed. So, we were certainly interested in exploring how we can go from the land to a product, and try to figure out, how something that could be naturally sourced, something that we could really dig into in terms of how it is sourced and what the footprint looks like. So we certainly were looking for something natural that could be sourced from subarctic biomass. And birch stood out through research. So yes, it was kind of a mix of academic and also lifestyle factors.
It was definitely, in terms of the research too, Elise and I explored not only the circumpolar traditions around us, but also, I know you've spoken a lot about Korea before too, and I like to think about it as Korea being to skincare as Paris is to fashion. They are the progressive kind of people that are at the forefront of figuring out what's next, what's new, what's effective. And all of that research thankfully led us back to here and to birch water, and then finding a way to bioferment, so to actually ferment, not for alcohol, but for effectiveness for the skin. So what we do with the birch water is basically create prebiotics that are beneficial to the skin through our biofermentation process.
You go out and harvest the birch sap yourself?
With my family.
With your family?
Yes.
As you grow this business, will you need to outsource some of that work, or do you feel it's a sustainable business for you and your family to keep collecting that sap?
Well, Elise and I have certainly talked about growth and what it looks like for us, but the gift of the birch water that we use is unlike the work that Sylvia and Berwyn do with their birch syrup. We are able to use the birch water without actually having to modify and boil it down. So because each tree potentially gives us many, many liters a day, and because we have a birch stand available to us through forestry and through work with TH, we were able to find a space that has an abundance of birch trees, and as a result, abundance of water too. So we're hoping that's not going to be the case. I think there's going to be plenty of birch water available to us.
So that's one of your primary ingredients, of course, going into your product. On the other side of things, you're 6 hours away from a northern capital. There must be a lot of logistical challenges of running a successful business out of Dawson.
A few.
Can you tell us a few of them and how you've overcome those challenges?
I think, one of the things that in terms of the lab and production and that sort of stuff is that you really have to be able to anticipate what it is that you may need, what might break down, how you're going to fix it, do you have spare parts, all of that sort of thing, because you can't put your operations at a standstill for 6 to 8 weeks while you source a new part. And so, you know, I think that though that sort of problem solving isn't new, business owners in Dawson have done that since forever. I think that really, in terms of us and getting it from the lab to the consumer, has been kind of the real revolution in terms of direct-to-consumer sales and the internet, social media. Those things have allowed us to live here and do this in a way that we probably wouldn't have been able to do, say, 15, 20 years ago.
Who is your consumer
Um,
of this particular Aurum skincare product?
Our focus was to create something that would be beneficial for people with sensitive skin, atopic, acne-prone skin. For both of us, it has been a challenge through the years to find things that didn't create a reaction with our skin. But the product itself certainly is geared towards that. And one of the things that we really wanted to focus on because of that was to work on having clinical trials, having dermatology testing, which normally for an indie beauty brand would be, you know, it is quite expensive, but for us we felt like it was something that was worth it to rest assured to customers or people that hadn't even tried us before to know that it wasn't just anecdotal. And don't get me wrong, the reviews are wonderful, and I love hearing from people. I love when one of the most rewarding things is having repeat customers, because that just shows you that it's working. And it's so nice to see that we're starting to really build through the years a loyal customer base. But it's definitely something that we wanted to do to affirm to ourselves, because it worked for us, but we wanted to make sure that it was something that really did work for other people too.
Are most of your sales direct to the consumer, or do you also sell to like resellers or spas or whatnot?
We do have spas, we have retailers across Canada. There's about 20 or so stores that we sell in across Canada right now. I forget what the percentage was that you said, maybe a 60-40 or?
Yeah, I think 60-40 was the kind of split that we were looking for, so 60% direct to consumer and 40% retailers. And I think we're probably at a 70-30 split right now. We were aiming for that as a way to not have all our eggs in one basket, and I think certainly COVID has shown us that the direct to consumer route to market is a worthwhile path to take. Had we focused all our energy just on retailers alone, we would have had a harder time these last couple of years. So it's been good to be able to diversify a little bit that way.
I don't know the beauty industry or the skincare industry, but
Come on.
I suspect there must be, I mean, maybe COVID has changed this, but there must be like product conventions or people you need to maybe meet face to face. And how do you do that from Dawson?
That's definitely a tricky aspect. I mean, as much as what Elise referred to is fantastic, and we've been delighted that social media, e-commerce has allowed us to grow our business here in a rural and remote community. The reality is there's nothing like face-to-face connection with people. A few years back, we went to a Green Beauty Night in Toronto, just pre-COVID, and it was such a wonderful experience, not only to get a sense of how other people viewed the Yukon, and even within Canada, it somehow really felt other than to a lot of people, and there was tons of questions and curiosity. And then, when we'd explain a little bit about Dawson and the lack of paved roads and no stoplights, people were just like, what? This is, and you're building a national brand here? And there is a real pride and passion that comes out, I think, when we get to talk to people and get to let them know what we're doing and why we're doing it. It's been a crazy journey, but a really fun one, and I think it's something that hopefully we'll be able to continue for a long, long time.
Has your trajectory changed with the reality of COVID and probably challenges getting out to product fairs and conventions and stuff. Like, have you, if COVID hadn't been here, has your growth, was it sort of, did it go in line with your expectations?
I think it's been the opposite. I think we found that, you know, as we were growing our business and with each stage of growth, and especially for a premium beauty brand where you need to invest in your marketing continuously, we were really not sure, you know, how the business was going to show itself to have legs. And I think that, you know, the resiliency that we've seen and the growth that we've seen through, despite COVID, has really shown us that, you know, that it is a worthwhile, it continues to be a worthwhile investment. So no, it's kind of exceeded our expectations, as opposed to, you know, it hasn't been bad for us.
And I think also with regards to COVID or anything else that happens within business, I think something that is key and that we've learned along the way is the need to be flexible. And yes, of course, you have a vision or you have a mission of what you're wanting to do, but you don't let that vision interfere with what's happening in the here and now. So you have your goal, and then how you get to it, or if the goal shifts, you need to kind of move with it, because it's an organic process. As much as you have your ideas in mind of where you want to go, that might be very different than where you actually go.
What sort of tools of innovation would you say you've been able to use from a remote northern community to grow your business? I mean, you mentioned the internet before, of course.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, we needed to really build a team. So first of all, with the innovation that we did with the birch water itself, it goes through an ultrafiltration process, a fermentation process. We were able to partner with a biochemist in Spain who was able to help us develop that technology through the internet, through chemistry forums on the internet, you know, and so that's been really useful. And then in order to be able to get the word out to the consumer, we also need to find creative professionals that we can work with as well, again, through the internet. So yeah, it really is kind of, you know, just this kind of superhighway, right, connecting us everywhere. And I think that is one of the things that you learn to be very crafty with in Dawson as well. So you're not just crafty with, you know, how you kind of strap together whatever it is that you need to do to be able to kind of do production and manufacturing here, but you kind of, you know, strap together the team that you need digitally to be able to kind of run a business with everybody, you know, so far away.
And it's really interesting too, because we spoke to the point in the film, but there are so many people innovating here. I think it's almost a personality trait that draws people here. But living in tandem with that, there's also all these other wonderful things happening that allow you to explore the land. Someone who's a role model to me, Fran, in the community, has taken me out, and I've learned how to pick stinging nettles, or I've learned a little bit more, and it just seems like every time I go out to forage, I learn a little bit more about what's out there, how to use it effectively, how to forage and actually take what you need and know more, learn how to do it so that you're always able to give back in some way too. So it's been an incredible journey on the side of Zoom that allows us to make all of the calls and meetings that we need to make. But then also being here, I feel like there's this really interesting juxtaposition between innovation and also this rich history and tradition that lives here.
Some of the southern audience might not know that the birch tree, I guess, has a cycle, and it's a seasonal cycle, and you're collecting all your birch water, of course, in the spring, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. Does this business sustain you year round, and how does that work in terms of, you know, you're using the land seasonally? Mm-hmm. Does it mean your business is seasonal?
Absolutely not. We sell year through, and the way that we've figured out how to do that, the lab that Elise has created in her home, which is sort of the ground one for us for creating the serum also has a huge freezer. So when we collect the birch water, I bring it over to Elise's lab, we pop it in the freezer, and we've got plenty to do us for the orders that we fill. And we do our best to fill on demand. So right now, I don't know if you want to speak to the machine that we're getting, which is exciting.
Yeah, so we've been doing 2-liter batches so lab scale batches for several years now. And we're ready now to scale up to small industrial scale. So we're about to go up to 10-liter batches, and it will be very freeing for me to not be doing batches on a regular basis, like, you know, on a weekly basis, and I might actually get some other work done. So this is exciting.
And you're going to be doing those batches right from Dawson?
Right from Dawson, yes.
So everything, does get done in Dawson. So we are able to tap from the birch trees, bring the birch water, bioferment it, and then use it on demand to create the serum. And it's bottling it, all of it is done here in Dawson.
But surely as your product becomes more and more successful, and you too become more and more successful, do you think there's going to be a push or a pull to a bigger center or to the south? And is that happening yet? Or how do you see that working out?
I think that certainly at some point we'll probably look at distribution from down south. So we will still be doing a portion of our business through direct-to-consumer sales, but we will also be, sending skids of product to a distributor, to a warehouse, so that they can supply the retailers. And we have some of those arrangements set up already. We just haven't kind of scaled those. The other portion of the business that really excites us is, we were able to source birch water and develop a biofermentation process. We would like to do that with other natural resources. Specifically, there are lots of biochemicals in birch that are useful for topical application. And so what we foresee in terms of further product rollouts is that we may be developing an ingredient in Dawson, but we will use probably a co-packer or a manufacturer down south to do the rest of the product. But in terms of our kind of hero product, the serum probably will always be manufactured in Dawson, just because that's the way that we've built the business.
And that's the hard thing too. As we start to grow, it becomes, and it's great to have contractors, and it's great to know who you want to work with and who you don't. And the result has been, right now we're at that kind of threshold where there's a lot of opportunity for growth, but I feel like we need to explore that a little bit further. We really want to maintain our roots here, like Elise said. And yeah, there's certainly been, through pitches and others, there's a lot of pressure externally for different types of growth. But Elise and I are happy to, right now, just carry on the path that we've been on and allow it to grow.
How can a place like Dawson and the Yukon Territory further assist? Like what sort of things could be set up to help grow your business here in Dawson?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the ways that we designed the business, just because of the way that we approach formulating, it was really difficult for us, because we weren't in the selling of anything business until we created this product. We really wanted to make sure that it was a product that we felt comfortable using ourselves, so that we didn't feel like we were kind of pulling one over on our friends and family and whoever else it is that we needed to kind of start with. And also that, if we ended up having to use our own serum forevermore, that, it wasn't something. So what we made sure that we did was we formulated for efficacy, and in Canada there's this kind of middle stage between cosmetics and pharmaceuticals, and it's all covered by kind of a regulatory body that regulates natural products. So our formula is formulated to be qualified as medicated skincare. Medicated skincare would allow us to make different claims than the cosmetic claims we're making right now. But what's really missing for us, and what's missing in the Yukon, is there has to be a licensed manufacturing space to be able to make a natural product. So Natural Products Canada would have to license the space, and then we could call it medicated skincare. So I think we see a lot of potential, not just for our own business, but for other businesses in Canada or in the Yukon that would be interested in that. Certainly in the kind of circumpolar region, a lot of European countries are really kind of bouncing off of the abundancy of their natural resources and just the way that the world views them as a way to kind of promote natural products. And we think that the Yukon would be really well suited for that.
And specifically, I really feel like the question that you brought up was a great one, Bill, in that there is this wonderful interplay between rich history, amazing botanicals that surround us, and innovation. And I do feel like Dawson really naturally has people that are innovators gravitate towards here. And I really feel that it would be incredible to have a place where we could actually create under the NPC medicated skincare to have something here in Dawson that does that, because I could think of even right now, just off the top of my head, a handful of at least companies and people that are doing tremendous and incredible things that they would then also be able to translate that into an NPC product.
Right here in Dawson.
Right here in Dawson.
So what's involved in like that sort of certification? Is it like a organic farm that has to, have X number of seasons, or, is there an accrediting body?
There is an accrediting body, so it is kind of a step down from the type of good manufacturing practices that you would have to do to be able to create a pharmaceutical per se. So that would be the type. They're more looking at the manufacturing space and what kind of procedures are followed, what kind of records are kept, that sort of thing, and also how the materials are sourced.
Probably similar to all the regulations and certifications required for like the Canada's cannabis industry, perhaps?
Exactly. Yeah, which is, also part of natural products, definitely.
So, is there a sort of a threshold that of economies of scale that would be required to start that in Dawson, or just sort of the investment and the risk to do it?
I think it's the facilities, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been able to kind of grow from lab scale to small industrial with what we felt like we could risk as a business ourselves. But the question then becomes after that, if there were several entrepreneurs that were willing to kind of go into one facility, what would that look like?
Well, of course, the Dawson region and which in traditional territory is quite vast with lots of natural products out there, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just for medicated skincare. It would also be kind of for pet products, so pet consumables, but also pet type cosmetics, and then for nutraceuticals as well. So yeah, it does cover kind of a lot of different industries.
Do you see yourselves changing your roles within the company, or do you each, like you talked about in the film, you each have a niche?
I think the roles, and we both naturally gravitate towards different things, but I think we would eventually see, and our goal in working here would be to actually have an employee or employees that could take over, because sometimes it's the devil's in the details, and sometimes there's so many details to take care of that it's really hard to move forward when you're kind of caught in the mire of day-to-day operations. So right now, I think, what Elise and I have talked about is, having those goals and those short-term, longer-term goals to hopefully find a way and an avenue where we can find employees that can take on some of the things that we've been doing and frees us to allow the company to grow.
Did you ever in your wildest dreams as, say, a teenager expect to be in this line of business where you grew up?
No.
And did you expect to be up here in Canada's north?
I think for me anyway, the story of moving here was my husband and myself and my young daughter at the time. We just wanted an adventure. And my son wasn't born at that point, and we just thought, we'll come here for a year, it'll be great. Let's see what it offers. And I feel like I've talked to so many people that have the exact same story. And it's one of those places where it sinks into your skin. You either are part of it or you quickly realize you're not. And we very much felt like we were part of it. And yeah, it's been around 10 years now, and we do really love it. But I mean, I'm the person who, and I said in the film, grew up in Newfoundland and was staunch about the fact that I will never live somewhere smaller or colder than Newfoundland, and here I am, right? Population 2,000, it's impossible in my mind to think that I'm here, but I'm here, and yeah, it's amazing. Be careful what you wish for, right?
What about you, Elise?
I grew up in the Greater Toronto area, so I was trying to get kind of as far away from suburban tract housing as I could, and I think I've hit that mark. So yeah, I'm quite happy.
Are there other birch skincare products out there on the market anywhere in the world, as far as you know?
There are, yeah. There's a couple that I can think of. But I think what distinguishes us is not only the dermatology testing, the clinical trials, but our biofermentation process. Because the prebiotics that we create as a result of that, which are beneficial for the skin, are ones that a company our size would in no way be able to either afford or be able to buy. So to actually be able to create them in a lab here in Dawson certainly has a unique element.
Yeah, I don't know any other. I know other cosmetic companies that specialize in prebiotics for sensitive skin, but I don't know any that create their own prebiotics.
Yeah.
So yes, I think it's.
In the documentary, you talked about having a love of academics in your life. Like, what did you folks study in your academic careers, and is it related to the field that you're in with this business?
It is, but a bit of a circuitous line into it. So my master's was in aesthetic philosophy, which is a branch of philosophy that really focuses on the understanding of art, beauty, and nature, and how we interact with it. So certainly having the time, building great connections with people here to learn about the land, to learn what it offers compared to the foraging that I was doing in Newfoundland, certainly relates to that. But I can't say that it's specific to skincare, that's for sure.
Well, I did my undergrad in economics until right at the very end, and I decided I wasn't a capitalist and wanted to study languages instead. And now I'm back, and both a capitalist and an economic botanist. So yeah.
And has now also, Elise is pursuing her master's in science because of the passion and enjoyment that she's gotten from formulating, and yeah, it's pretty incredible.
You're pursuing that right here from Dawson?
I am.
Master of
yes.
Science?
Yes.
How
yes.
do you find how can you do that?
The joys of the internet. Yeah, I think that one of the great things about going back to school, kind of at the age that I'm at, is that my framework changes for what makes a good school, a good institution. And so I was able to find a school in the US, a university that's allowing me to take the courses I want to take. And so yeah, it's pretty free, and essentially kind of a lot of the kind of lab work that we're doing is the business work that we would have been doing anyway. So it's allowing me to kind of kill two birds with one stone, and it's been great.
Tell us a little bit more about your next half a year. Like, we're almost here in winter. The cold months are coming soon, hopefully not too soon. What's next for Aurum Skincare in the next few months?
Well, we've been able to squirrel away from the spring, the birch water that we needed to collect. But the thing that I'm really excited about is launching a second product. And we're hoping to do that early 2022. So, and talking about the ebb and flow of building a brand in a rural and remote area, this is one of those things. Ideally, Elise and I were wanting to launch the product pre-holidays, but sometimes it can take, especially for custom bottles, for example, that we're looking at, it can take a very long time to actually see the final product, and then we'll get it. It might take 2 or 3 weeks to get it here, and it's not exactly what we're looking for, so back to square one. And then it's waiting for that, communicating, and while the Zoom interactions and the internet has been incredibly useful for a lot of things, for packaging, for so many elements, you really need to have your hands on. So it can be challenging and time consuming in the relaying of things back and forth through the mail or however that we're getting them. So it's going to be now in 2022. So I see that as one of the really big exciting things that's going to be happening with Orem. Yeah.
Do you have your 10-liter batch kit yet?
It's coming. It's on
When
the
do you
truck.
expect that?
Any day now, I think.
that right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
Wow.
literally.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I guess if there's any budding entrepreneurs out there, you know, with an idea, you know, they might not have the confidence to pull it off, or they're looking for supports. Can you give them any advice? Like, when you first conjured up this idea, did somebody help you out there, or is there a resource you could point them to?
I think building a brand here in the Yukon, as much as it's had its challenges, has also been a wonderful opportunity. Through UConstruct, we have this incredible mini documentary. Through INE, what really kind of spearheaded our, I think, confidence and desire to push forward with the Innovation Prize, Yukon University. There's been so many great places where we've been able to connect with people and allow our idea to develop and grow. So that's been tremendous. I think for any entrepreneur, setting your own schedule, finding your way to work is important, but again, that going back to a certain level of confidence and flexibility, confidence in yourself to push forward despite whether it's naysayers or yourself doubts. It does build your confidence when you keep taking it to the next level and pushing forward despite what you might sometimes worry about or feel. It's a wonderfully empowering opportunity, and I tell them to go for it. But also the flexibility to recognize where you want to kind of stick to your guns and where you recognize there's room for maneuverability.
Have you anything further on that?
Well, I think just the thing that's kept us going over the years is you have to know why. You know, why are you doing it, right? Because there's always going to be somebody that's going to tell you that you can't do it, and you need to know, you know, in order to be able to kind of really dig in your heels, what exactly it is that you're trying to get out of it, and that definition of success, you know, will evolve over time. And so you do have to be flexible with it, but you do kind of have to be able to self-reflect enough. Otherwise, it's just too easy to get led astray or give up. And so,
Did either or both of you have a mentor that helped you through that, or did you really help each other through that?
I feel like having Elise has been really useful in that you can always bounce ideas off each other. It's a confidant who's in it with you and wants to obviously see ideas grow, and I do feel genuinely that I want Elise to be able to enjoy the elements that she's doing, and I feel that from her as well, that and when you're enjoying it, you're more productive. So it's I think it's been great. In terms of role models, it's funny because it's one of those things, and I remember Jen Novakovic from this cosmetic chemist from this night in Toronto that we went to, she had said, and it was really self-affirming, and it felt really nice for her to be aware that we're one of a couple of companies in Canada that are doing their R&D, that are innovating in the way that we are in the beauty industry. And I think it was really nice for somebody within the industry to acknowledge and be aware of that, because that does really put us apart from a lot of what's happening right now.
Has anyone asked either of you two to be a mentor to them? Do you see that possibly coming?
Elise, certainly. Like I think I was mentioning this to you before, Bill, where it's very important for us, a perspective of women in science as well, for young women to recognize that there's science everywhere. And there was a girl who wanted to work with Elise, so Elise took her on, and in turn, I think she was out of Toronto and wanted to gain credit for the work that she did and the understanding that she gained of the process of formulating, understanding a little of the chemistry behind it. And I think that was something that was really important to Elise, and something that we feel is important to offer.
Elise, did you mentor
Yes.
this woman in Toronto from here in Dawson?
Yes, yeah. So I mean, all via Zoom, but because it's a online business, there are plenty of things that we need to do online in order to be able to market the business, to keep it running. So and in the same way, for product development, there's a lot of research that you have to do online in order to be able to establish a benchmark and know what kind of ingredients you're going to start with and stuff like that. So yeah, there were a lot of things that we were able to work on together, to kind of give her a behind the scenes look of what it's like to. Cosmetics is great in the sense that it's kind of a low barrier to entry, but it's also, its own worst enemy in the sense that it's low barrier to entry, but in order to be able to be successful at it, you need to be able to do those things well. And so in terms of formulating, in terms of marketing, you need to be able to have the tricks of the trade. And so it was great to be able to kind of share with her some of the things that we've learned over the years.
So it's about 10 minutes to the top of the hour. We're sitting here, for anyone just joining us now, in Yukon College in Dawson City, on the traditional territory of the Tronic-Wichan. There are actually, it's not just us three in this room, there's a few people that way. And perhaps somebody is controlling the Zoom, and maybe you could ask the Zoom folks if they have any questions.
We do have some questions.
Oh, they do have some questions. So Lisa is in the room, and some people on Zoom have questions, and so maybe Lisa can pass them to me, or
I can ask
you can ask the questions directly.
Yes, I'll ask the questions directly.
Okay. So do you want to maybe come back here? Or no? Okay, speak loudly.
Okay, there was some comments that people really liked your product and they found very inspiring. And they're curious how you fuel growth in Dawson. Is there access to capital you need? Is staffing an issue, or just manufacturing regulations?
Those are great questions.
Staffing, like we mentioned, is definitely something that is tricky as we're building growth, and more people are hearing about us. I think it's kind of the biggest issue I see right now is there's just not enough time in the day to do all the things that we need to do. So it would be wonderful to have other people that we could delegate to, so that we could grow the business further, because at some point you just need to take care of the day-to-day, and then as those demands grow, it's very hard to get to all the really exciting product launches, and there's a third product in development. So there's all these wonderful things in the wings, but it's very hard to get to them and have those exciting dreams that we want to jump at and do when you're caught in the mire of your day-to-day.
What about financing? Have you had to approach financing? Have you made pitches to venture capitalists or whatnot? Have you needed to, and how? Tell us about if you've needed to do any of that and how that's gone from Dawson.
Well, there's been wonderful opportunities for financial help through the Yukon. I don't know if you want to speak further to the various
Yeah, no, I
organizations.
think that in terms of kind of places in Canada where I could foresee us doing this is probably the best place in all of Canada in terms of financing, I think, and access to programs. So that part hasn't really been a challenge. In terms of kind of industrial facilities, I think, yes, that is, there needs to be, I think, really a vision for what economic growth in the communities looks like, apart from mining and tourism. So, I'd like to kind of hear more of that discourse and know for us to be able to kind of visualize where it is that, we could grow into. But yeah, no, I think that in terms of financing, it's all good. Marketing has been a challenge. So getting on people's lips. But that's, thanks to, the stellar business partner that I have and how great she is at making connections. I haven't had to worry about that as much, but without Joanne, I'm not sure, how well I would have fared.
We'd like more marketing help. That would also be great.
You haven't pitched to the Dragons, have you?
No, we haven't pitched to the Dragons. No, no.
Are there more questions, Lisa?
Yeah, there's a couple more. You did talk about building a national brand a little bit, but do you have other comments about how you built such a powerful, beautiful brand globally?
Another great question.
Yeah.
I think for us, as much as kind of clinical efficacy is great and allows us to kind of really stand behind the product, the other thing that we've really tried to kind of invest in and take pride in is a way to kind of catalog kind of the heritage that we feel like we're living, during this stage of our life, during building our business here, during learning from, the other kind of community members that we have around us, and that we've tried to, and Joanne's done a great job of trying to translate through our social media and communicate to the creative talent that we work with as well, and a lot of great creative talent in Dawson. So I think that it really kind of has to do with, again, kind of your why, and knowing, what the brand is supposed to stand for you, and trying to get that message through. And it seems to be that kind of the more authentic you can be from that, and Dawson and all of Yukon really is a great place for that. People kind of pick you up as something different.
And I mean, even talking about the great creative talent, the people that came to Dawson, like Lance and Nishka from Shakat Media.
They made the documentary.
They made
Yep.
the documentary, and it was such an enjoyable experience working with them. We got to see behind the scenes of how hard they worked, what they do to bring an 8-minute video
Yeah.
to life, and I think they did a tremendous job, and I'm really grateful to them for coming to Dawson and for just having such a great energy about them and putting us at ease, chatting with them and just really being open to all kinds of different things.
There's one more question.
Awesome.
What is the new product?
That might be a secret.
You can tell us, but you can ask.
So it's a powdered cleanser. One of the biggest challenges for people with sensitive skin is water-based cleansers have kind of really harsh surfactants in them and need preservatives in order to be able to kind of sustain the water-based formula. So powdered cleansers allow you to drive the surfactant load down really low and not use quite as many preservatives. So it is something that we are quite excited about in terms of, in your skincare routine where you're likely to kind of cause the most problems if you're prone to sensitive skin. Certainly the cleansing step is the number one. And we've created something that works well for us based on birch bark. So it's a chemical in birch bark that's in the that's in the product itself, and
on top of that, one other thing, as I get to do beta testing for it, I was with my children in Whitehorse, and my skin was reacting to something, so I put the mask on, and I was just kind of arms around the kids, and I fell asleep with it on, the cleanser, but it doubles as a mask. When I woke up in the morning, my skin was like just happy and not red and itchy like it was. So the nice thing is the minimalist brand that I feel like we've created in the serum, not just the aesthetic, but the fact that the serum can also be an eye serum because it's safe for use around the eyes. I like the idea of the cleanser also being able to be used as a mask. So yeah.
It occurs to me we have some packages over here.
Right.
You might as well bring those onto the Zoom to show people what it looks like.
Yes, so
Right?
this is what Orem looks like. This is the package.
And that's the box.
And that's the box. And so come hopefully early 2022, we'll have another box and another package that you'll be able to see for the cleanser.
So birch, for example, I guess aspirin was first derived from birch. Right?
That's right,
Mhm.
yeah.
So and also Aurum Skincare.
We got another
Oh,
question?
we got another minute or two.
Does the serum expire?
It does. So once it's opened, and we have the label here, it's basically you use it within 12 months. The shelf life itself, we did do shelf stability testing as well, and I believe it's a 2-year shelf stability.
Great.
Any more questions, Lisa?
No, there
Okay.
seems to be a lot of support, and there is some exciting oohs and cheering for
Thank you.
And some awes too.
Yeah.
We like all of them.
So we've almost reached the top of the hour. So I again want to thank Elise McCormick and Joanne Sherrard for spending time talking with us about their product and about Aurum Skincare for the Entrepreneur Speaker Series. And before we go, I just want to thank again the sponsors Rolf and Marg Hougen, Yukon Struct, Yukon Government, and another shout out to Lance and Nishka from Shakat Media for the documentary we saw earlier. So thanks for your time, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.